I stood before the altar, gripping Caroline's hand tightly, my heart pounding with anticipation. The church was filled with our family and friends, all gathered to witness the happiest day of our lives. The sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the marble floor. The priest's voice echoed solemnly as he recited the vows. Suddenly, the heavy wooden doors of the church burst open with a loud thud. Heads turned, and a collective gasp swept through the congregation. My best friend Josh staggered in, pale and drenched in sweat. He looked like he had just run a marathon. "I need to tell you something," he whispered urgently in my ear as he reached the altar. His voice trembled, and his eyes darted nervously around the room. I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but something was wrong. "What is it, Josh?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. Josh took a deep breath and glanced at Caroline. Her face turned ashen, and she looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "Caroline and I, we're in love," he confessed, his voice cracking. "We've been seeing each other for months." The world around me blurred and spun. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My best friend and my bride? It felt like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind out of me. I looked at Caroline, hoping for some sign that this was a cruel joke, but her silence was deafening. Tears welled up in my eyes as I felt the weight of betrayal settles over me. How could I have been so blind? Memories of the times we had spent together, the laughter and the shared dreams, now seemed tainted and hollow. I let go of Caroline's hand, my fingers numb and trembling. Without a word, I turned and walked out of the church, leaving the stunned guests and a weeping bride behind. The sun was shining brightly outside, a stark contrast to the darkness engulfing my heart. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion as I walked aimlessly through the streets, my mind racing with a million thoughts. Back at my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. The pain was unbearable, but amid the torment, a seed of something darker began to grow. I couldn't let this betrayal go unpunished. They had taken everything from me, and I was determined to make them pay. As the hours passed, I started to piece together a plan. I knew Josh better than anyone, and I knew his weaknesses. If he thought he could get away with this, he was sorely mistaken. My mind was set on revenge, and nothing would stand in my way. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. I hadn't slept at all. The events of the previous day replayed in my mind like a broken record. Caroline and Josh, the betrayal, the looks on their faces. It all felt like a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. Determined to find answers, I picked up my phone and dialed Caroline's number. My hands shook as I held the phone to my ear, listening to the ringing on the other end. Finally, she answered, her voice weak and filled with dread. "Hello? It's me," I said, my voice cold and devoid of emotion. "We need to talk." There was a long pause before she replied. "Okay, where are you?" "At our apartment. Come over." An hour later, Caroline arrived. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She stood in the doorway hesitant, as if she expected me to lash out at any moment. I stepped aside, allowing her to enter and closed the door behind her. We sat down at the kitchen table, the silence between us heavy and oppressive. Finally, I broke the silence. "Why, Caroline?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why did you do it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know, Michael. It just happened. Josh and we got close. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I scoffed. "A mistake that lasted for months? How could you do this to me, to us?" She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." The anger bubbled up inside me, threatening to explode. "Well, you did. You destroyed everything. Our relationship, my trust in you, and my friendship with Josh. How can I ever forgive you for this?" Caroline started to sob, but I felt no sympathy. The pain she caused me was too deep, too raw. "You need to leave," I said firmly. "I can't stand to look at you right now." She nodded, wiping her tears, and slowly stood up. "I'm truly sorry, Michael. I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me." I watched as she left, the door closing softly behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty chair across from me. Memories of happier times flooded my mind, but they were now tainted with the knowledge of her betrayal. As the days passed, I found myself reflecting on my life, our relationship, and my friendship with Josh. How had I missed the signs? Were there clues I had overlooked? Moments that should have raised suspicion? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. But amid the anger and sorrow, a new feeling began to emerge. A cold, calculated determination. I couldn't let them get away with this. They had to pay for what they had done to me. The plan that had begun to take shape in my mind started to solidify. I knew what I had to do. I hired a private detective, a man named Sam, to dig into Josh's life. If there was anything that could be used against him, Sam would find it. It didn't take long before he uncovered some interesting information. Josh was involved in some shady business deals, activities that were not only unethical, but illegal. Armed with this knowledge, I began to plot my revenge. I would expose Josh for who he truly was and bring his world crashing down around him. It was time to make my move, and I was prepared to do whatever it took to see it through. The first step was to gather more evidence. I needed concrete proof of his illegal activities, something that could not be disputed. I spent hours sifting through documents, emails, and financial records, piecing together the puzzle of his deceit. The more I uncovered, the clearer my path became. Josh had made a grave mistake by betraying me, and soon, he would learn the true cost of that betrayal. Days turned into weeks as I meticulously gathered evidence against Josh. The detective, Sam, was relentless, uncovering more and more details about Josh's illicit dealings. Each new piece of information fueled my resolve. I knew I had to be patient. One wrong move could ruin everything. Late one night, as I pored over a stack of documents, my phone buzzed. It was Sam. "I've got something big," he said. "Meet me at our usual spot." We met at a dimly lit diner on the edge of town. Sam slid a thick envelope across the table. "This is everything you need. Bank statements, emails, even photographs. Josh has been laundering money for a local gang. It's all in there." I flipped through the contents, my anger simmering beneath the surface. This was it. This was the proof I needed to bring him down. "Thanks, Sam," I said, slipping the envelope into my bag. "You've done an excellent job." With the evidence in hand, I started to spread subtle rumors about Josh's activities. I reached out to mutual acquaintances, hinting at his dark side. It wasn't long before whispers turned into conversations and conversations into accusations. I knew Josh would start to feel the pressure soon. Next, I orchestrated a way for Josh to be caught red-handed. I knew he had a meeting scheduled with his gang contacts. With Sam's help, I tipped off the police, ensuring they would be there to witness the transaction. The night of the meeting, I waited anxiously at home, my phone within arm's reach. It wasn't long before the call came. "We've got him," Sam said. "The police raided the place just as the money was changing hands. Josh is in custody." A surge of satisfaction coursed through me. The first part of my plan had succeeded, but I wasn't done yet. Josh needed to experience the full extent of his downfall. The news of Josh's arrest spread quickly. His reputation was in tatters, his business partners abandoning him one by one. I watched from the sidelines as his world crumbled, feeling a grim sense of justice. But there was one more person who needed to face the consequences of their actions: Caroline. As Josh's trial date approached, Caroline reached out to me. Her messages filled with pleas for forgiveness and desperate attempts to explain herself. I ignored her, focusing instead on my next move. On the day of the trial, I walked into the courtroom, my heart pounding. I took a seat at the back, watching as Josh was led in, handcuffed, and defeated. His eyes met mine for a brief moment, and I saw the realization of his fate reflected in them. It was a small victory, but it wasn't enough. After the trial, as Josh was taken away to serve his sentence, I finally responded to Caroline. "Meet me at our old apartment," I texted her. She arrived looking worn and anxious. "Michael," she started, but I held up a hand to silence her. "I don't want to hear your excuses," I said coldly. "You destroyed everything we had. But I'm not here to dwell on the past. I'm here to show you what happens when you betray the wrong person." I handed her a folder containing copies of the evidence against Josh. "This is what he was doing behind your back, and this," I said, pulling out a legal document, "is the divorce agreement. Sign it, and you'll be free to move on with your life. But know this, you and Josh will never find peace. Not after what you've done." Tears streamed down her face as she signed the papers. I took them from her and walked away without a backward glance. The weight of the past few months lifted slightly, but I knew the scars would remain. With Josh in prison and Caroline out of my life, I felt a sense of closure. The betrayal had nearly broken me, but it had also made me stronger and more resolute. As I walked into the future, I knew I would carry the lessons of this dark chapter with me, a constant reminder that trust, once shattered, could never be fully repaired. The weeks following Josh's incarceration were a blur of calculated moves and careful planning. With Caroline out of my life and Josh behind bars, I focused on the next phase of my revenge. I knew that to completely dismantle Josh's world, I needed to attack his business from the inside. I spent hours researching Josh's company, identifying key players and weak links. His business partners were already shaken by his arrest, but I needed to ensure the company's complete collapse. I contacted an old college friend, Andrew, who specialized in corporate sabotage. We devised a plan to infiltrate Josh's company and expose its vulnerabilities. Andrew and I met at a quiet cafe downtown. "This needs to be subtle," I said, leaning in. "We can't afford to draw attention to ourselves." Andrew nodded, a glint of determination in his eyes. "I'll start by posing as an interested investor. Once I'm inside, I'll gather information and sow discord among the employees." Days later, Andrew began his infiltration. He attended meetings, charmed the staff, and gained the trust of key figures within the company. Meanwhile, I continued to spread rumors about Josh's illegal activities, ensuring that his reputation was irreparably damaged. One afternoon, Andrew called me. "I've got something. One of Josh's business partners, a guy named Richard, is involved in some shady deals. He's been skimming money off the top and covering his tracks. If we expose him, it'll create a chain reaction." This was the break I needed. "Let's do it," I said, "but we need to be careful. If Richard catches wind of this, he'll try to bury the evidence." Andrew worked tirelessly, collecting incriminating documents and recording conversations. We compiled a comprehensive dossier on Richard's activities, complete with financial records, email exchanges, and testimonies from disgruntled employees. With the evidence in hand, I anonymously sent the dossier to a local news outlet, known for its hard-hitting, investigative journalism. The story broke within days, and the fallout was immediate. Richard was arrested, and the company's stock plummeted. Employees panicked, investors pulled out, and the business teetered on the brink of collapse. I watched the news coverage with a sense of grim satisfaction. Josh's company, once a thriving enterprise, was now a sinking ship. But there was one final step to ensure its destruction. I knew that Josh still had a few loyal supporters who were trying to salvage what was left of the company. I needed to turn them against each other. Using the information Andrew had gathered, I crafted a series of anonymous tips, suggesting that certain employees were conspiring to take over the business for their gain. The paranoia set in quickly. Trust eroded, and alliances crumbled. The remaining employees began to suspect one another, each vying for control in the chaotic aftermath. I watched from the shadows, knowing that the final blow was imminent. One evening, as I sat in my dimly lit apartment, my phone buzzed. It was Andrew. "It's done," he said. "The company's filed for bankruptcy. There's nothing left." I closed my eyes, a wave of relief washing over me. Josh's world had been completely dismantled, and I had played a part in every step of its downfall. I thanked Andrew for his help, knowing that I couldn't have done it without him. With Josh's business in ruins and his reputation destroyed, I felt a sense of closure. The betrayal that had once consumed me had now become the catalyst for my transformation. I was no longer the man who had stood at the altar, blindsided by betrayal. I had become someone stronger, someone who would never be caught off guard again. As I looked out the window at the city skyline, I realized that my journey was far from over. There would be new challenges and new betrayals, but I was ready for them. I had faced the darkest parts of myself and emerged victorious, and now it was time to move forward, leaving the wreckage of my past behind. The morning after the company filed for bankruptcy, I woke up with an unexpected sense of tranquility. The months of meticulous planning and relentless pursuit of revenge had finally paid off. Yet, as I sat in the quiet of my apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still more to be done. News of Josh's company collapse dominated the headlines. Reports detailed the scandalous arrest of Richard, the corruption within the business, and the paranoia that had torn the company apart from the inside. Josh's name was now synonymous with betrayal and criminal activity, and his downfall was complete. But I needed to ensure that the full extent of his actions was brought to light. The final phase of my plan was to ensure that the authorities uncovered every last one of Josh's illegal dealings. I reached out to the detective, Sam, who had been instrumental in gathering evidence against Josh. "Sam," I said when he picked up the phone, "I need you to hand over all the remaining evidence to the police. Everything we have on Josh and his operations." "Are you sure about this?" Sam asked. "Once this goes public, there's no turning back." "I'm sure," I replied. "I want him to pay for every crime he committed. The world needs to know the truth." Sam agreed, and within hours, he turned over the documents to the authorities. The additional evidence triggered a new wave of investigations, and the police soon discovered the full extent of Josh's criminal network. He had been involved in money laundering, fraud, and numerous other illegal activities. The case against him was airtight. The news of the new charges reached me quickly. Josh's trial was a media sensation, with reporters flocking to the courthouse, eager to capture every detail of his downfall. I attended the trial, sitting in the back and watching as the evidence was presented. The look on Josh's face as the reality of his situation sank in was one of utter defeat. When the verdict was finally read, it was clear. Josh was sentenced to a lengthy prison term. The judge's gavel struck, sealing his fate. I felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me. Justice had been served. As Josh was led away in handcuffs, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The man who had once been my best friend was now a convicted criminal. His betrayal had set me on a path I never anticipated, but it had also led me to discover my strength and resilience. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on the journey I had been through. The pain of betrayal, the meticulous planning, and the eventual downfall of those who wronged me had changed me in profound ways. I realized that, despite everything, I had grown stronger, more determined, and more capable of facing whatever challenges lay ahead. One afternoon, as I was packing away the remnants of my past life, I received a message from Caroline. She wanted to meet, to talk. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to leave the past where it belonged. But another part of me knew that closure required facing the people who had hurt me. We met at a quiet park, a place we had often visited during happier times. Caroline looked fragile, her eyes filled with regret. "Michael," she began, her voice trembling, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to see you one last time." I looked at her, my emotions a mixture of anger and sorrow. "Caroline, you shattered my trust, and that's something I can't easily forget. But I've realized that holding on to this anger will only continue to hurt me." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm truly sorry for everything. I hope you can find it in your heart to move on and be happy." I took a deep breath. "I'm working on it, but forgiveness isn't something I can give right now. Maybe someday." We parted ways, and as I watched her walk away, I felt a sense of finality. The chapter of my life that had been dominated by betrayal and revenge was closing, and a new one was beginning. With Josh behind bars and Caroline out of my life, I was ready to move forward. The pain of the past will always be a part of me, but it no longer defines me. I had faced the darkness, and now it was time to step into the light. Months passed since Josh's conviction, and life slowly began to return to a semblance of normalcy. I found a new job at a marketing firm, pouring my energy into rebuilding my career. The routine was comforting, a stark contrast to the chaos that had defined my life for so long. Despite the tranquility, echoes of the past lingered. Caroline had moved away, seeking a fresh start in another city. Occasionally, I would receive updates about her from mutual friends, but I no longer felt the intense anger or sorrow that once accompanied her name. Instead, I felt a sense of closure. One evening, as I was walking home from work, I noticed a small, cozy bookstore that had recently opened in my neighborhood. The warm glow of the lights and the inviting smell of coffee drew me in. As I browsed through the shelves, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. This place, filled with stories and possibilities, felt like a refuge. I picked up a book on personal growth and resilience, something that resonated with my recent experiences. As I approached the counter to pay, The cashier, a friendly woman with kind eyes, smiled at me. "First time here?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied, returning her smile. "I just moved into the area and thought I'd check it out." "Welcome. This place is great for escaping reality for a bit," she said, handing me my book. "I'm Lily, by the way." "Michael," I said, shaking her hand. "Nice to meet you." Over the next few weeks, the bookstore became my sanctuary. I spent hours there, losing myself in the pages of books and engaging in conversations with Lily. Her warmth and enthusiasm were contagious, and I found myself looking forward to our chats. One evening, as we were closing up the store, Lily asked if I wanted to grab a coffee. I hesitated for a moment, memories of Caroline flashing through my mind. But then I realized that this was an opportunity for a fresh start. "Sure," I said, smiling. "I'd love that." We walked to a nearby cafe, and as we talked, I felt a connection forming. Lily was open and genuine, her laughter a soothing balm to my wounded soul. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. As our friendship blossomed, I began to open up about my past. I told Lily about Caroline, Josh, and the betrayal that had shattered my world. She listened without judgment, offering support and understanding. Her kindness helped me heal in ways I hadn't thought possible. One sunny afternoon, as we sat in the park, I turned to Lily. "Thank you for everything," I said. "You've helped me more than you know." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Michael, you've been through so much, but you're stronger because of it. I'm just glad I could be here for you." As time went on, our friendship deepened, and we began to explore the possibility of something more. I realized that my heart, once hardened by betrayal, was slowly opening up again. The walls I had built around myself were beginning to crumble, brick by brick. One evening, as we walked along the beach, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the water, I took Lily's hand. "Lily," I said, my voice filled with emotion, "you've brought light back into my life. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to face it with you." She squeezed my hand, her smile radiant. "I'd like that too, Michael." As we stood there, watching the waves crash against the shore, I realized that I had found a new beginning. The pain of the past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was ready to embrace the future, to build a life filled with love, trust, and happiness. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led me to this moment. I had emerged from the darkness, stronger and wiser, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And with Lily by my side, I knew that the best was yet to come. As life with Lily began to blossom, the shadows of my past were never far behind. Though I had found peace, I knew the final act of my plan had yet to play out. Josh was still in prison, but the repercussions of my actions were far-reaching. The destruction of his business and the exposure of his crimes had left a trail of devastation that affected many lives. One afternoon, as I was preparing to meet Lily at the bookstore, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, a sense of foreboding creeping over me. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "Michael, it's Sam," came the familiar voice of the detective. "We need to talk. Can you meet me at the diner?" The urgency in his voice sent a chill down my spine. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, I replied. I arrived at the diner, my mind racing with possibilities. Sam was already seated in a corner booth, a grim expression on his face. I slid into the seat opposite him, my heart pounding. "What's going on, Sam?" I asked. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Michael, there's been an investigation into the methods we used to gather evidence against Josh. Some of the people we exposed have powerful connections, and they're pushing back. Hard." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "There's talk of charges being brought against us for illegal surveillance and manipulation. The authorities are scrutinizing every step we take. If they find enough evidence, we could be facing serious legal consequences." The weight of his words hit me like a punch to the gut. In my quest for revenge, I had crossed lines I never thought I'd cross. The reality of what that meant was now staring me in the face. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sam sighed. "We need to prepare, get our stories straight, and gather any evidence that can exonerate us. But Michael, you need to understand that this could get very messy." I nodded, feeling the walls closing in around me. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect myself. And Sam, thank you for warning me." Leaving the diner, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. The thought of facing legal repercussions was terrifying, but I couldn't let fear paralyze me. I had to stay focused, to find a way out of this mess. That evening, I met Lily at the bookstore, trying to mask my anxiety. She could tell something was wrong immediately. "Michael, what's going on?" she asked, concern etched on her face. I took a deep breath and told her everything. The betrayal, the revenge, and now the impending legal trouble. She listened silently, her expression a mixture of shock and empathy. "Michael," she said softly, "you did what you thought was right, but now you have to face the consequences. We'll get through this together." Her unwavering support gave me a glimmer of hope. Over the next few weeks, I worked tirelessly with Sam to prepare for the legal battle ahead. We compiled evidence, sought legal advice, and did everything possible to strengthen our case. The day of the hearing arrived, and as I stood outside the courthouse, I felt a surge of anxiety. Lily was by my side, holding my hand, her presence a comforting anchor. Inside, the courtroom was a cold, sterile environment, filled with stern faces and an air of gravity. The proceedings were intense, each side presenting its case with fervor. My actions were scrutinized and my motives were questioned. It was a harsh reminder of the thin line between justice and vengeance. As the hearing progressed, I realized that I had to own up to my actions. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up, taking a deep breath. "Your Honor," I began, "I acknowledge that in my quest for justice, I crossed lines that I shouldn't have. My actions were driven by a deep sense of betrayal and a desire to see those who wronged me face the consequences. But I understand now that the ends do not always justify the means. I am prepared to face the repercussions of my actions and accept responsibility for them." There was a heavy silence as my words hung in the air. The judge regarded me with a stern but not unkind expression. After what felt like an eternity, the judge spoke. "While your actions were misguided, it is clear that you were driven by a profound sense of betrayal and hurt. This court does not condone vigilante justice, but it also recognizes the mitigating circumstances. You will face penalties, but they will be proportionate to the infractions committed." The relief was palpable. The penalties were severe but not ruinous. I would face fines, community service, and a period of probation. It was a harsh lesson, but one that I was ready to accept. As I walked out of the courthouse, Lily beside me, I felt a sense of closure. The journey had been fraught with pain and mistakes, but it had also been a journey of growth and redemption. With the past finally behind me, I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it might hold. With the legal troubles behind me, I began to focus on rebuilding my life in earnest. The penalties imposed by the court were a constant reminder of the price I had paid for my actions, but they also catalyzed change. I threw myself into community service, using the opportunity to reconnect with people and contribute positively. Lily was my rock during this period. Her unwavering support and understanding were the foundation upon which I built my new life. We grew closer, our bond strengthening with each passing day. She saw the best in me, even when I struggled to see it myself, and her faith in me became a source of profound comfort. One evening, as we sat in our favorite park, Lily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Michael," she began, "have you ever considered speaking to a therapist about everything you've been through?" I hesitated. The idea of unpacking the past in front of a stranger was daunting, but I knew that the scars of betrayal and revenge still lingered. "I don't know," I admitted. "It's not easy for me to open up." Lily took my hand in hers. "I understand, but I think it could help. You've been through so much, and talking to someone might help you process it all." After some contemplation, I decided to give it a try. I found a therapist who specialized in trauma and began attending regular sessions. The process was challenging, but slowly I began to unpack the layers of pain and guilt that had accumulated over the years. Through therapy, I learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made. I came to understand that my actions, while misguided, were driven by a deep sense of hurt and betrayal. The journey towards forgiveness was long and difficult, but it was also incredibly liberating. Meanwhile, my relationship with Lily continued to flourish. We spent our days exploring new hobbies, traveling to new places, and simply enjoying each other's company. The weight of the past began to lift, replaced by a sense of hope and possibility. One sunny afternoon, as we walked along the beach, I turned to Lily with a smile. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you," I said, reaching into my pocket. She looked at me, curiosity and affection in her eyes. "What is it, Michael?" I took a deep breath and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it, I revealed a simple but elegant ring. "Lily, you've been my guiding light through the darkest times of my life. You've shown me what it means to love and be loved unconditionally. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded, a radiant smile spreading across her face. "Yes, Michael, I will." The months that followed were filled with joy and anticipation as we planned our wedding. It was a small, intimate ceremony, attended by close friends and family who had supported us through our journey. As we stood before them, exchanging vows, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the second chance at happiness that life had given me. The wedding was a beautiful celebration of love and resilience. As we danced under the stars, surrounded by the people who mattered most, I knew that I had finally found peace. The scars of the past will always be a part of me, but they no longer define me. They were a testament to the journey I had undertaken and the strength I had found within myself. In the years that followed, Lily and I built a life filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. We faced challenges together, supporting each other through thick and thin. I continued my therapy, always striving to be the best version of myself. The community service that had once been a penalty became a passion. I found fulfillment in helping others, using my experiences to connect with and support those who had faced similar struggles. Through this work, I discovered a sense of purpose and redemption. One evening, as Lily and I sat on the porch of our home watching the sunset, I turned to her with a contented smile. "Thank you, Lily, for believing in me and helping me find my way." She rested her head on my shoulder, her voice soft and filled with love. "Michael, you've come so far. I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful to be part of your journey." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the landscape, I realized that I had found what I had been searching for all along: peace, love, and a sense of belonging. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had led me to a place of true healing and happiness, and for that, I will always be grateful. Life with Lily was a dream, and each day a new chapter in our shared story of love and healing. Our small home, filled with laughter and warmth, was a stark contrast to the turmoil I had once known. Yet as content as I was, I couldn't shake the feeling that there were still loose ends from my past that needed tying up. One afternoon, while sorting through old papers and documents, I stumbled upon a name I hadn't thought of in a long time: Richard, the business partner who had been exposed for his corrupt activities. The man whose downfall had been a crucial step in dismantling Josh's empire. Curiosity gnawed at me. What had become of him after the scandal? Driven by a need for closure, I began to dig deeper. Through a series of online searches and discreet inquiries, I discovered that Richard had served his time and was now living a quiet life in a nearby town. He had started a small consulting firm, keeping a low profile and avoiding the public eye. I felt an inexplicable urge to confront him, to understand his perspective on everything that had happened. With Lily's support, I decided to visit him. I reached out, and to my surprise, Richard agreed to meet. We met at a quiet cafe, a neutral ground where we could talk without the ghosts of the past overshadowing us. Richard looked older, the years and the weight of his actions etched into his features. He regarded me with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "Michael," he greeted me, his voice tinged with regret. "It's been a long time." I nodded, taking a seat opposite him. "It has. I wanted to talk, to understand more about what happened back then." Richard sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I made a lot of mistakes. Greed and ambition blinded me, and I got caught up in something much bigger than I could handle. When everything came crashing down, I lost everything: my career, my reputation, my family." His candor surprised me. "Why did you agree to meet with me?" I asked. "Because," he said, meeting my gaze, "I want to make amends. I've been trying to rebuild my life, to find some semblance of redemption. Meeting you is part of that process. I need to acknowledge the harm I caused, not just to you, but to everyone involved." We talked for hours, unraveling the tangled web of betrayal and corruption. Richard explained his role in the shady deals, and how he had been manipulated by Josh and others in the company. He expressed genuine remorse, and for the first time I saw him not as an enemy, but as a flawed human being who had made terrible choices. As our conversation drew to a close, Richard leaned forward. "Michael, I know I can't undo the past, but I want to help you in any way I can. If there's anything I can do, please let me know." I thought about his offer. There was one thing that had always bothered me, a question that had never been fully answered. Why did Josh betray me? What did he stand to gain from it? Richard sighed. Josh was always driven by power and control. He envied you, Michael. Your integrity, your relationships, everything he lacked. Betraying you was his way of proving his superiority, of tearing you down to feel better about himself. Hearing this was both painful and enlightening. It confirmed what I had long suspected, but it also underscored the deep-seated insecurities that had driven Josh's actions. I thanked Richard for his honesty, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. Leaving the cafe, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I confronted one of the last ghosts of my past and emerged with a deeper understanding of the forces that had shaped my journey. As I walked back to my car, I called Lily to share the experience. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "It went well," I replied. "Better than I expected. I think I finally have the closure I needed." Lily's relief was palpable. "I'm glad, Michael. You deserve peace." That evening, as we sat together on our porch watching the sunset, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. From the depths of betrayal to the heights of redemption, I navigated a path filled with challenges and growth. And now, with Lily by my side, I was ready to embrace the future, free from the shadows of the past. The unveiling of hidden truths had brought clarity and healing. I had faced my demons, sought forgiveness, and found a renewed sense of purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I knew that the best chapters of my life were still to come, written in the light of love, redemption, and newfound understanding. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm after I met with Richard. The specters of betrayal and revenge no longer haunted me. Instead, I focused on nurturing my relationship with Lily and exploring new opportunities for personal growth and fulfillment. One of the avenues I pursued was volunteering at a local community center. The experience of helping others who were facing challenges similar to mine brought me a sense of fulfillment that I had never experienced before. It was a way for me to give back and channel the lessons I had learned from my struggles into something positive. Lily, always supportive, encouraged me to continue my therapy sessions. Together, we explored new hobbies and traveled to places we had always dreamed of visiting. Our bond deepened with each shared experience, and I knew without a doubt that she was my soulmate, my life partner. As the months passed, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had led me to this point. The pain of betrayal and the tumultuous path of revenge had tested my strength and resilience. But through it all, I had discovered the power of forgiveness, both for others and for myself. One rainy afternoon, while going through old photographs, I came across a picture from my wedding day. Lily looked radiant in her wedding gown, her smile lighting up the room. It was a reminder of how far we had come and the love that had sustained us through the darkest times. Lost in memories, I realized that there was one more person I needed to forgive: myself. Despite making peace with others involved in the past, I still carried guilt and self-blame for the choices I had made. It was time to confront those feelings and finally let go. With Lily's encouragement, I returned to therapy with a renewed focus on self-forgiveness. My therapist guided me through exercises in compassion and acceptance, helping me to understand that we are all fallible and capable of growth. Through this process, I began to release the burdens of guilt and shame that had weighed heavily on my heart. I acknowledged my mistakes, but I also recognized the strength and courage it had taken to confront them. Slowly but surely, I embraced a new sense of self-worth and inner peace. One sunny morning, as Lily and I sat in our favorite cafe, savoring the warmth of our coffee, I turned to her with a smile. "Lily, thank you for believing in me and for walking this journey with me. I feel like I've finally found closure." She reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. "Michael, I'm so proud of you. You've faced your demons with courage and grace. Our love has only grown stronger through it all." I nodded, feeling a sense of contentment wash over me. I couldn't have done it without you, Lily. You've been my rock. As we sat there, basking in the comfort of each other's presence, I knew that I was ready to embrace new horizons. The scars of the past had faded into memories, lessons etched into the fabric of my being. I was filled with hope and optimism for the future, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them with courage, resilience, and the unwavering support of my beloved Lily. With a heart full of gratitude and a soul at peace, I looked forward to the next chapter of our life together, ready to write new stories of love, growth, and endless possibilities. Months had passed since I had last thought about Josh. Life had settled into a comfortable routine, filled with work, volunteer activities, and cherished moments with Lily. Yet the unresolved issues from my past still lingered in the shadows of my mind. One evening, at a community gathering organized by mutual friends, I overheard snippets of conversation that caught my attention. Josh had resurfaced in the area, trying to rebuild his life after his release from prison. The news sent a ripple of unease through me, stirring up memories of betrayal and anger. As I mulled over the implications, an idea began to form. What if I could bring closure to this chapter of my life, not through vengeance, but through justice? The thought lingered in my mind, growing stronger with each passing day. With Lily's support, I reached out to Sam, the detective who had played a pivotal role in unraveling Josh's crimes. Over coffee at a quiet cafe, I laid out my plan, a carefully orchestrated meeting that would lead to Josh's encounter with the authorities, under the guise of coincidence. Sam listened carefully, weighing the risks and potential outcomes. After a long pause, he nodded. "It's risky, Michael. But if we can pull this off without implicating ourselves, it could bring a measure of closure." We spent weeks planning every detail, ensuring that the meeting appeared spontaneous and innocuous. Through discreet inquiries and strategic maneuvers, we positioned ourselves for the decisive moment. One chilly autumn afternoon, I received a call from a friend, casually mentioning that Josh was attending a local event, a fundraiser for a community initiative. It was the opportunity we had been waiting for. Heart pounding, I arrived at the venue, blending into the crowd with practiced ease. Sam and his team were discreetly positioned nearby, ready to act at a moment's notice. I spotted Josh across the room, chatting animatedly with acquaintances, oblivious to the storm gathering around him. Summoning my courage, I approached him, my heart racing with a mixture of apprehension and determination. "Josh," I greeted him, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my lips. He turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Michael," he said cautiously, "I didn't expect to see you here." "It's been a while," I replied evenly. "How have you been?" Before Josh could respond, a commotion erupted nearby. Sam and his team moved swiftly, their presence commanding attention. "Joshua Morgan," Sam's voice cut through the air, authoritative and unwavering. "You're under arrest for violation of parole and suspicion of new criminal activity." Josh paled, his façade of confidence crumbling. Panic flashed across his features as he was led away, surrounded by officers. The realization of what was happening dawned on him, and he shot me a venomous glare, but I met it with a steady gaze. As I watched Josh being escorted out of the venue, a weight lifted off my shoulders. The chapter on betrayal and revenge was finally coming to a close, not through my hands, but through the justice system. It was a bittersweet moment, tinged with a sense of vindication and closure. Later that evening, as Lily and I sat on our porch, savoring the quiet of the night, I reflected on the events of the day. "It's finally over," I said softly, breaking the silence. Lily took my hand, squeezing it gently. "You did the right thing, Michael. You brought closure to a painful chapter of your life." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lily. Your support means everything to me." As we sat there, enveloped in the warmth of our love and the quiet of the night, I knew that I had finally found the closure I had been searching for. The journey had been long and arduous, marked by betrayal, revenge, and ultimately, redemption. And now, with Lily by my side, I was ready to face the future with hope and optimism, leaving the shadows of the past behind me. With Josh's arrest, a new chapter of uncertainty unfolded. The knowledge I had accumulated about his shady dealings became a double-edged sword, an opportunity to dismantle his remaining empire from within, but also a moral dilemma. Despite my reservations, the desire for justice burned fiercely within me. With careful deliberation and consultation with legal experts, I crafted a plan to expose the vulnerabilities in Josh's business operations. Using discreet channels and leveraging my network, I began to subtly sow seeds of doubt and suspicion among his business associates. Strategic leaks to regulatory authorities and investigative journalists revealed discrepancies and unethical practices, casting a shadow over Josh's once thriving enterprise. As the revelations gained traction, the foundation of Josh's business began to crumble. Investors pulled out, clients withdrew their contracts, and legal scrutiny intensified. The facade of success and respectability that Josh had meticulously maintained for years shattered under the weight of undeniable evidence. I watched from a distance, conflicted yet resolute. Each blow to his business was a reckoning, a consequence of his past actions catching up with him. It was a sobering reminder of the far-reaching impact of betrayal and greed. One evening, as I reviewed the latest developments with Sam and Lily, a sense of closure washed over me. "It's almost over," I said quietly, more to myself than to them. Sam nodded grimly. "Josh's empire is in freefall. The evidence you gathered has been instrumental in bringing his illicit activities to light." Lily squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with pride and empathy. "You've done what needed to be done, Michael. Now it's time to focus on moving forward." I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The journey of revenge had transformed into a quest for justice, a path fraught with moral dilemmas and difficult choices. But through it all, I learned the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of standing up for what is right. As Josh's world crumbled around him, I knew that this chapter of our intertwined destinies was coming to a close. The scars of betrayal will always be a part of me, but they no longer define my future. With Lily's unwavering support and Sam's steadfast friendship, I was ready to embrace new beginnings, free from the shadows of the past. The road ahead was uncertain, but I faced it with a newfound sense of purpose and inner peace. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I was determined to navigate them with integrity and compassion. Lessons learned from the tumultuous journey that had brought me to this pivotal moment. As the sun set on another day, casting a golden glow over the horizon, I knew that I had finally found closure. And with Lily by my side, I was ready to write the next chapter of my life, a chapter filled with hope, resilience, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The downfall of Josh's business empire had been swift and devastating. With each revelation of his illegal activities, the pillars of his once flourishing enterprise crumbled further. Investors deserted him, legal authorities closed in, and the public outcry grew louder. Amidst the chaos, a pivotal moment arrived when law enforcement, armed with irrefutable evidence gathered from various sources, moved to arrest Josh. The culmination of months of investigation and strategic dismantling of his operations led to a dramatic and decisive action. One crisp morning, as the sun rose over the city skyline, law enforcement officers surrounded Josh's now desolate office building. The air was thick with tension as they executed a meticulously planned raid. Reporters gathered outside, their cameras capturing every moment of the unfolding drama. Inside, Josh was caught off guard, his once confident demeanor now replaced by fear and disbelief. The authorities swiftly placed him under arrest, reading him his rights as they escorted him out in handcuffs. As the news spread, it sent shockwaves through the community. Headlines blared the downfall of a once prominent businessman, now facing multiple charges of fraud, embezzlement, and other serious offenses. The legal system moved swiftly, ensuring that Josh remained in custody pending trial. For me, witnessing Josh's arrest from afar brought a mix of emotions: relief, vindication, and a somber acknowledgement of the human cost of his actions. It was a closure of sorts, a testament to the consequences of betrayal and greed. That evening, as Lily and I reflected on the day's events, I felt a sense of closure unlike any I had experienced before. "It's finally over," I said softly, sipping my coffee. Lily nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding and empathy. "You've been through so much, Michael, but you've handled it with grace and integrity." I smiled gratefully at her. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lily. Your support has meant everything to me." As we sat there, surrounded by the warmth of our home and the quiet of the night, I knew that this chapter of our lives was coming to a close. The journey through betrayal, revenge, and justice had been arduous and transformative. But through it all, I had found strength in love, resilience in adversity, and a renewed sense of purpose. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Josh's trial proceeded, and justice continued its course. His arrest marked the end of an era tainted by deceit and corruption, a pivotal moment in my journey toward healing and redemption. Looking ahead, I knew that scars of the past would always be a part of me. Yet, with Lily by my side and a newfound clarity of purpose, I was ready to embrace the future with hope and optimism. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I was determined to face them with courage and integrity, lessons learned from a journey that had tested my resolve and reshaped my understanding of forgiveness and justice. In the aftermath of Josh's arrest and the subsequent media frenzy, life began to settle into a semblance of normalcy for Lily and me. The scars of betrayal and revenge were healing, yet they remained etched into the fabric of my being, a reminder of the tumultuous journey I had endured. One evening, as I sat at my desk sorting through paperwork from the day's community service activities, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Curiosity piqued, I answered, only to hear a hesitant voice on the other end. "Michael, it's Caroline," she said, her tone tinged with uncertainty. Caroline, the woman who had once been my wife, whose betrayal had set in motion a chain of events that had altered the course of my life. Despite the years that had passed, her voice stirred memories and emotions long buried. Silence stretched between us as I processed her unexpected call. Finally I spoke, my voice measured and distant. "What do you want, Caroline?" Her response was hesitant, filled with remorse and pleading. She apologized for her actions, acknowledging the pain and devastation she had caused. She spoke of regret and a desire for reconciliation, hoping for forgiveness. But as I listened, a wall of detachment hardened within me. The wounds Caroline had inflicted were deep, leaving scars that had taken years to heal. Her words, while sincere, could not erase the betrayal and heartbreak of the past. "I appreciate your apology, Caroline," I said finally, my voice devoid of warmth. "But forgiveness is not something I can offer right now." There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by a quiet acceptance. Caroline understood the gravity of her actions and the consequences they had wrought. With a heavy heart, she murmured a farewell before hanging up, leaving me alone with my thoughts. As I set the phone down, a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me: anger, sadness, and a lingering sense of betrayal. Yet, amidst the turmoil, there was also a glimmer of clarity. I had chosen to protect myself from further hurt and to prioritize my healing and well-being. That night, as Lily wrapped her arms around me, offering silent comfort and understanding, I found solace in her unwavering presence. Together, we faced the challenges of the past and the uncertainties of the future, knowing that our love and resilience would guide us through. In the days that followed, Caroline's attempts to reach out became sporadic, eventually tapering off. The chapter of our shared history closed with her departure, leaving me to focus on the present and the future I was building with Lily. As time passed, the wounds of betrayal slowly faded into scars, reminders of the strength and resilience that had carried me through. With Lily by my side, I embraced each day with renewed hope and optimism, knowing that I had found true forgiveness within myself. A forgiveness that was not about absolving others of their actions, but about freeing myself from the chains of the past. As the sun set on another chapter of my life, I looked ahead with gratitude for the lessons learned and the love that had illuminated my path, a love that had healed wounds and forged a future filled with promise and possibility. After everything I had been through, my life gradually began to find its rhythm again. I found the strength to overcome betrayal, revenge, and even forgiveness. My determination and resolve garnered attention not just for scandals and exposés, but for my actions in public service and philanthropy. Meanwhile, the fates of Josh and Caroline took a starkly different turn. As his business empire crumbled under scandals and legal scrutiny, it lost its sparkle and authority. The true extent and intentions behind my actions became clear to the public eye, and their wealth and influence dwindled rapidly. Caroline, left alone and embittered after I refused to forgive, lost everything she held dear, including her social standing and respect. Her attempts to regain her former life or repair relationships proved futile, and she was forced to embark on a new chapter of her life in solitude. For Lily and me, this time marked a period of peace and recovery. We found joy in everyday pleasures, inspiring each other to achieve new heights and pursue new passions. Together, we understood that each of us had faced trials, and now, united, we could move forward despite any hardships. As the sun rose over a new day, I realized that this tale of betrayal, revenge, and forgiveness had left indelible marks on me. I had found answers to my questions and peace within myself. Our hearts were open to new adventures and possibilities, ready to write new chapters filled with love, hope, and acceptance. Thus concluded the story of a man who found himself in a world of betrayal and retribution, and ultimately found peace and reconciliation within the heart of his home and the love of his life. With the turbulent chapters of my past firmly closed, I embarked on a new journey, a life filled with determination and unwavering resolve. The lessons learned from betrayal, revenge, and forgiveness have shaped me into a person of strength and clarity. I embraced each day with a renewed sense of purpose, mindful of the pitfalls of trust and the importance of guarding my heart. Yet, I also understood the value of openness and vulnerability, tempered by wisdom gained through experience. Lily stood by my side, a beacon of support and love, as we navigated the uncertainties of our new beginnings together. We seized opportunities for growth and fulfillment, cherishing the moments of joy and overcoming challenges with resilience. In my professional endeavors, I channeled my energies into meaningful projects that made a difference in the community. My reputation for integrity and determination grew, earning respect and admiration from colleagues and peers alike. As I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the trials that had shaped me and the love that had sustained me. Each step forward was a testament to my commitment to never allow myself to be betrayed again, to protect my heart while embracing the richness of life's experiences. With Lily's hand in mine and a heart filled with hope, I looked towards the future with optimism and courage. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew that I was ready to face them head-on, armed with the lessons of the past and the strength of my convictions. As the sun set on another chapter of my life, I welcomed the promise of tomorrow, a future shaped by resilience, purpose, and a steadfast resolve never to allow anyone to betray me again. As I reflected on the tumultuous journey of betrayal, revenge, and forgiveness, a profound realization settled within me. I came to understand that while the pursuit of vengeance may temporarily satisfy a wounded soul, it could never truly heal the past or bring back what was lost. Instead, I found solace in the triumph of justice. The unraveling of Josh's deceitful empire and the exposure of Caroline's betrayals all underscored the power of truth and accountability. It was a validation that, despite the pain and turmoil, righteousness had prevailed. With Lily's unwavering support and love, I embraced this newfound clarity. Together, we looked ahead with optimism, ready to embark on a new chapter filled with promise and purpose. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined my future. In my heart, I held on to the lessons learned, the importance of integrity, the resilience forged through adversity, and the wisdom gained from navigating treacherous waters. Each experience shaped me into a person of strength and compassion, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As I stood at the threshold of this new beginning, I felt a profound sense of peace. The wounds of betrayal had healed into scars of resilience, reminders of the journey that had led me here. With a clear conscience and a steadfast resolve, I welcomed the promise of tomorrow, a future shaped by justice, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. Together with Lily, we forged ahead, embracing each day as a gift and each challenge as an opportunity for growth. In the quiet moments of reflection, I knew that I was finally free from the shadows of the past, ready to write a new story, one defined by hope, courage, and the unwavering belief that justice, in its own time, always prevails.